Hello and welcome back. Today I'm going to be going through my bookshelf, going through all of the books I have not read and wrapping them up for me to read in 2025. I have some paper here, so I'm going to wrap up all of the physical books that I have, number them 1 through however many there are, and throughout the year I'm going to pick one at random and we're going to read it cover to cover, no stops, unless it's DNF, but doesn't usually happen with books. I usually have to read them all the way through because then I feel like the book is won in a way. So yeah, I don't have much else to say other than let me show you the books I haven't read and get them squared away. So starting with the very top shelf, we're not really going to be touching anything up there. It's all books that I've already read and like classics and whatnot. That shelf is kind of a work in progress. We're going to rearrange everything once this is all done anyway. The next shelf, we're going to move my mead and my little figurines out of the way. Before we get anywhere, please ignore the Dan Brown in the corner, alright? We all experiment when we're 18. Mostly everything on here has been read except for the Red Queen series right here. Obviously, I'm still in the middle of Red Queen. I'm getting there. It's been a busy week. Mostly everything else has been done except for the first book in the Apollo Trials. I was on a huge Percy Jackson kick at the very beginning of this year because of the TV show, and I just never read the books in middle school. I didn't read books that didn't have a female main character, to be honest. And I'd gotten Trials of Apollo because I figured I would read it once I was done with the Heroes of Olympus series right here. But at that point I was like super burnt out on Percy Jackson altogether, so I was kind of struggling to get through the last 2 books, I won't lie. So we're taking Apollo down and we're gonna wrap him up. This next shelf I was actually pretty proud of when I rearranged my bookshelves, but to be honest, it's not super ergonomic, I suppose. But there are a good amount of books on the shelf we can take down. Now, a couple of these might put me on your rob list, I won't lie. However, I do have to confess something. I have 1, 2, 3 copies of The Familiar, and I have not read a single one. And this isn't like over consumerism. I have a reasoning for this, I promise. One of them I had pre-ordered so that I could get a certain book plate that came with pre-orders through the publishing company or whatever. And then I also got tickets to see Leigh Bardugo when she did her tour for this book. And I got tickets for me and my boyfriend, and I didn't realize that at the door they give you a copy of the book for each ticket holder. So I ended up with 2 more. One of them, obviously, I made sure to get signed by her. And because I'm trying to keep this copy preserved, I'll probably read one of them that wasn't signed, and then I'll figure out what to do with the last one. I'm not just going to hold on to it, honestly. But either way, I'm going to take all 3 of these down. So I'm sorry if you see my shadow moving in the background. I'm trying to walk around my tripod here. The other 2 books that are behind here I've read already, so we don't have to worry about those. You take down the Atlas Paradox. You can see here, I did start it. The Atlas series and Olivia Blake in general is just, it's a bit of a, you know how people say that they turn off their brain to read books? This is like the extremist opposite of that. Like, you really need to be turned on and turned into this. I was able to get through the Atlas 6 because I would read it when I was at work, and I would just like force myself to get through it even if I didn't understand something. And I'm hoping that doing this with the Atlas Paradox and just deciding that like, alright, I've chosen this one randomly, so I have to get through it and I can't do anything else until I finish it, will help me, you know, be able to finish it in a somewhat timely manner. Ninth House and Hellbent have not read. Let's see if I get these down. Ooh, oh shit. Once again, don't rob me, but yeah, they sold them at the place she was doing the tour, so I got both. I know she said she's doing 1 more book in this series. Also, I'm not gonna wrap up. If I have a book and I have like the sequel of it, I'm not gonna wrap both of them up. I'm just gonna wrap up the first one. That way I don't accidentally unwrap a sequel and then have to figure out which one was the first one. Because like I said, I'm going to try and randomize this as much as possible, so I don't know which one I'm going to be opening when I unwrap it. I am also setting a rule for myself where if there is a series and I have the sequel for it, I need to finish it. I can't just like read this and then leave this to be a to be read for however long. These two I'm going to pull out at the same time because they're both Grishaverse, Language of Thorns and The Lives of Saints. I got these with the like Barnes & Noble hardcover sale last year. These are like the only books in the Grishaverse that I have not read because they're kind of just like companion novels. They're not like a deep part of the lore. I mean, they're part of the lore, but not part of like the character stories. Next up is Stolen Heir, the next series in the like Elfhame series. I forget that. A novel of Elfhame. The one that follows Oak. I think that's his name. Oh fuck. Yeah, it follows Oak when he's older, and obviously Jude has tried to groom him to be a good king. I'm excited to read that because I got the sequel for Christmas, even though I have not read the first one. But I wanted to make sure that I got this in hardcover before it switched to paperbacks and the hardcovers got hard to find. Because my biggest pet peeve is when I start a series and they're not the same like style. I didn't need it to be the Barnes & Noble exclusive, but that was just a happy accident, so I'm good with that. Next up, we have Trust of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I have not read anything by Sanderson. I feel like maybe I should read this first before I get into anything else to kind of ease me into his world, because I know like everything's kind of interconnected or whatnot. Because I am doing a buddy read of Mistborn at some point, and I have Way of Kings on my Kindle, but she's going in the pile. The last one on this shelf was a gift from my friend. It's called Migrations. I've read the synopsis of it and it sounds really good. And it's a pretty like, it seems like a pretty short read. So I'm excited to get into this. It's about like a woman who's following the migration of birds, obviously, but it also kind of ties into her migrating away from her past life in a way. That's a probably really shitty way to describe this, but I'll tell you more when I actually read it. Alright, on to the next shelf. I had hoped to make this like the manga anime shelf, but obviously all I really have is Jujutsu Kaisen. You can see some figurines over there, some Pop Funkos, but I really just didn't have enough, so this whole thing is going to be revamped. The whole shelf really is going to get a big revamp. The only two books I haven't read are The Guy She Was Interested Wasn't a Guy at All, and I'm not going to add this to the like wrap up pile because this is going to take me like 20 minutes to read, so I'm just going to set it aside. And then we have Vow of Thieves. I read Prince of Thieves, or sorry, Dance of Thieves, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't have a full grasp of what the hell was going on. And then I realized that there was a whole other series that ties in before the series takes place, so I bought the first book from that with the intention of reading it and coming back to this, but we can see how well that happened. Alright, moving on to this next shelf, we actually have quite a bit here that has not been read. Actually, almost all of it. This whole section, actually. Yeah. So this is the series that I got with the intention of trying to read so I can understand Vow of Thieves more. We can see how well that thought came about. So side note, I just realized how like floppy this is. Oh, I love that. This right here is a book I've had since 2017 probably. I have had it so long that this series has undergone cover changes. This one I haven't had as long. I got it in 2021, but still. Poppy War. I'm just behind on like all of the popular series really. This one is a little embarrassing, I won't lie. I asked for this for Christmas like, I don't even remember when. A long ass time ago. Gone Girl I actually started and got like a pretty decent way in. You can actually see the dent from where my bookmark lived in it for so long. And yeah, I just never finished it. You'll see there are actually a lot of books here that I started and just never finished. I got this book because a movie was coming out of it and then it sat on a shelf and I never touched it. Same with Daisy Jones. I got it because I watched the TV series and everyone said that it is so different from the TV series that... Why am I saying series? The TV show. It was one season. It wasn't really even a series. The TV show. And so I wanted to see for myself. And I had read Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Thought that was good. Mostly. And she's been uncracked. Vengeful, of course, has to come out of the box set here. Unfortunately, I did not follow my start a series, finish a series rule with this, but we'll get to her eventually. The Serpent and the Wings of Night. Ooh. remember everyone on TikTok saying this is like a really good high fantasy novel, and I guess there's vampires in it. I don't even know, dude. I don't remember. Okay, this one is a bit of an oddball, so wow, okay. This was probably gifted to me in like 2015, 2016 from my mom because I took ASL for 3 years in high school, and so it's about a deaf girl who kind of fulfills like this was probably One Direction fan fiction, I'm not gonna lie. It was originally a Wattpad story, but I don't remember what it originally was. And you saw me rip out the bookmark. I got a good portion of it out of the way. Okay, I barely remember what happens in this book, but I don't really have the heart in me to like get rid of it. So yeah, I'm gonna have to finish this. The Hate U Give. This is another embarrassing one that I got in like 2018, or like whenever the movie came out. The movie actually came out pretty soon after this was first published. And I remember that was the reason why I wanted to buy this, because I was so surprised. But yeah, don't hate me for that, I'm sorry. Alright, Mistborn is not going to get wrapped up because, as I said, I have a buddy read planned at some point for this. Who knows when that's happening, but he's going to stay out here. And then if we slide Gale over, we have The Beast. Everyone says it's really not that long of a read, that it's just, you know, kind of deceptively large because of the margins they have in the book, but yeah, when this is wrapped up, I'm definitely gonna be able to tell which one it is. Alright, for this shelf, we don't really have a lot. I think I can actually pull out all of the ones that I haven't read yet. Six books, that's not bad. And this one, you know, it counts, but it also doesn't count because it's a sequel. I did start The Duke and I. And I still have the bookmark in there, apparently. What is it? I have no idea where I got this, but I'm using it as a bookmark. I don't even know if that's focused. It doesn't matter. So yeah, you can tell that all a book really needs is to be turned into a movie or a TV show to get me to want to read it. The Night Circus, I have been trying to read this, no joking, since I was 18. When I was at university for the one semester I spent at university, I checked it out in the library because my friend read it, and her very first tattoo was a circus tent because she loved it so much. And I checked it out in the library and just never read it. I read a lot of books that year, but I never read this, unfortunately. Love and Other Words, I don't gravitate towards romance a whole lot, especially not straight romance, I'm sorry. What happened was, like, my boss at my last job gave us all books for like Christmas presents last year, and she gave me the Atlas 6, which I already had, and then another girl, she gave this and she already had it, so I was like, oh my god, let's just trade. So that's what happened there. Alright, and I don't know if you can see, this is the biggest pet peeve of my life, the fact that I have the Lunar Chronicles, and the last one is in hardcover, because when I was reading it, it wasn't out in paperback yet. It drives me crazy. I have the same issue with the Raven Cycle, but that's up at the top. You can't see it. I don't want to show it. Alright, we are at the bottom shelf now. These are where some of the oldest books that have been here are. Can you hold on, please? Okay. I'm literally almost done, and you're okay. Atreus, please. Mom's trying to work. So, like, there's quite a bit of YA in here that hasn't been touched. There's a tab on that because that's what I was using to mark my TBR. You can see how well that worked out. Merciless. Oh my god, some of these books are so old. Codename Verity. Also, once again, another book I bought because I watched the movie. I have not read Fahrenheit 451, but I'm not adding it. I'm not. This one makes me feel the worst because my friend actually gave this to me in either summer 2016 or 2017. One of them. And yeah, I haven't read it. I don't even remember what it's about, which is a common theme here, obviously. That concludes this shelf. Only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more books added to the pile. I'd say that's not too bad. Okay, so here they all are. You know, it's really not that bad as I thought it would be. You know, I feel like this is a manageable pile. Maybe. I did just count all of them up, and it is exactly at 35. I don't know why when I first came up with the idea to do this, I didn't think it would break 20, but here we are, 35 books, not including any sequels I might already own. Oh, actually, hold on. It's actually 39. Oh dear. It's 39 because there are 4 books on my Kindle that technically need to be a part of this list. Yeah. Hi, editing Olivia here to provide some much needed context for this next clip. So remember when I said that this shelf didn't really matter because the books on there I'd all read or they were classics or something? Turns out it did matter because I did find one more book. I'll just put a picture right here. It's a mass paperback erotica that I thought I'd try out, you know, engage my inner middle-aged woman because I just read Ice Planet Barbarians, and I thought, let me ride the erotica train, you know? Failed to realize the only reason I liked Barbarians is because the men weren't human men. So I read the first chapter and kind of got the ick, but held on to it because I felt determined to actually see it through. And it's important that I found it and that I included it in the wrap-up because it made my TBR a nice round 40, which I was very happy about. Which is why you'll hear me talk about taking a book out of the wrap-up and then wanting to add another one back in to keep it even. That I don't mention in the outro originally because I filmed it at 9 a.m. on 4 hours of sleep. So true to my word, I started filming that on December 30th and it is now January 2nd, but I have the books done and wrapped up. Couple of things about this. I originally said that I had 39 to be read books. I included some from my Kindle, which I'll show you how I incorporated them into this whole process in a second. But I was going through my books and I did find Serpent and the Wings of Night, and turns out it actually is about vampires, and I saw Nosferatu yesterday. And so now I really want to read this next. Currently reading Red Queen. I'm halfway through. It's slow going. It's been a busy holiday season, but I'm getting there. And I told myself that whatever book I pull out of the wrappings, if I have the sequel, I have to read it right after. Because while there are 40 books here, technically my TBR is larger than that. But I am cheating a little bit, and I think I am going to read this next after the Red Queen series. Maybe by then my vampire hyperfixation will have died out, but I was reading like the little snippet on the back and I was like, I think I want to read it. So to kind of offset that, I added another Kindle book that I had. The books that I have on my Kindle, one of them is a Storm of Swords, I believe it's called. It's the third book in the Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin. I also have Way of Kings that a friend gifted me, and then there are some Kindle Unlimited books that I either am halfway through or I've just been meaning to start. One of them is A Promise of Dusk by Riley Parks. It's her debut novel and I highly recommend you go and download it. And the other one is A Herald of the Witch's Mark. It's the third book in the Rowan Blood series by Kellen Graves, and it's a really cool fae series which depicts fairies in the way that they should be, which is gender non-conforming. And I loved the first two books, but the third book is just like, there was so much going on that I just kind of like fell out of it. So it's been sitting at, I think like 40% or something like that on my Kindle for almost a year now. So I need to finish that, so that is on there as well. And the one that I added is another Kellen Graves book called A Bone in His Teeth, which I know nothing about except that there's mermaids. The way I incorporated the Kindle books was that I randomly generated some numbers on my phone from 1 through 40 and just wrote them out on a piece of the craft paper I used to wrap the books and just slid them in amongst the numbers. So it will be kind of a long time. It will be some time until I actually crack open one of these, and how I do it is I will just either randomly generate a number again, or I'll make a little wheel on my phone and spin it, and whatever number comes up, that's what I'll read. And again, if I already own the series or a sequel or whatever, I have to read that next. But if the series is really good and I really want to know what happens next, I will allow myself to buy the next book if I have the means and the budget for it. But this works out kind of nicely because I did set a reading goal for myself on Storygraph. I usually don't set reading goals for myself because I, in the past, knew I wasn't going to meet them. So I set a reading goal for 50 books to read this year, which doesn't seem like a lot compared to most people's reading goals, but for me that's a pretty good number to reach. And I don't necessarily have faith that I'll get through my entire TBR this year. I think I'll make a pretty sizable dent, but life happens, and I know I'm gonna need like a palate cleanser book to read on my Kindle, or I'm just gonna be in the mood for something else. So it may get delayed, but either way, I'm going to get them knocked out. Because as I've said several times in this video already, some of these I've had for like 8 years and they've either been started and not finished, or they've just never been cracked open. But yeah, so my goal is 50 books this year. Last year I ended up reading 37 books, which is pretty good. Majority of it was the Jujutsu Kaisen mangas though, and a lot of like MLM books on my Kindle. The start of the year was when I was on my Percy Jackson kick, so I actually read like 10 books in January and I think 10 in February, or close to 10 in February. So a good bulk of my reading came from the very beginning of 2024. But either way, the whole point of this channel that I started was to help me get back into reading more and to just have something to motivate me to do things. This video will probably be coming out a few days after the new year, just knowing the schedule that I have up and coming. But I hope everyone watching this has had a good New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and I hope that your 2025 starts out great.